Well, as we step towards the final days of meteorological summer, it is a complex situation. Extreme heat across southern France and relatively fresh conditions across northern Scotland. Thanks for clicking on to the Wednesday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Hope everybody is well and enjoying their late afternoon and early evening. Like I say, exceptional temperatures across southern France. It does look as if, according to Maximiliano Herrera, it has been France's warmest August day in recorded history. I believe that is the case. I will try and look at that to get confirmation before the end of this recording here. But you can see here quite the thermal gradient across the west of Europe at the moment here. Looking at the UK temperatures, we've got only mid-teens in parts of the north, where we've got 26, 27, possibly a 28 across southeastern England this afternoon. We do have some shower activity going on at the moment, especially across the north, thanks to an area of low pressure not too far off northwestern shores. And we have got an interesting situation overall through the course of this evening here. So we've got this area of low pressure to the west of the Outer Hebrides. We've got another area of low pressure over the eastern Bay of Biscay, as you can see here. But if you look at the 850s, they are really significant here in terms of the gradient here, the very sharp gradient at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning between northern France and the Midlands of England here. In particular, Birmingham is right on that boundary. Our friend David Birch is sitting right underneath that boundary between some pretty warm air to the south and fairly cooler to the north. And like I said, there's two areas of low pressure we need to pay attention. Right along that boundary, up at 30,000 feet, we've got a jet stream in between, separating this very sharp gradient in temperature. And it's along this boundary that we need to watch out later this evening and into the early hours of tomorrow morning. We could see a blow up of thunderstorms. That trigger being that little area of low pressure over the eastern Bay of Biscay. We see here at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. If we kind of play it back slightly, you can see what happens here. So we'll continue with the blustery, fresh, showery regime across the northwest of the UK here. It's this little feature here over the Bay of Biscay that is kind of going to ignite the atmosphere, so to speak, during the overnight tonight. Looks as if we are going to see a blow up of thunderstorms developing over northwestern France. They will kind of slide east along the top of northern France, possibly clipping the Paris area, but also the far south of England, say in a line between Southampton and, say, Greater London, possibly southern portions of Suffolk. We may see some fairly lively weather during the overnight tonight, right along that boundary, separating, like I say, fresh Atlantic air with very hot, humid air that's in play at the moment here. So you see that area of low pressure kind of spiraling over the Outer Hebrides, as you can see here. It's going to continue to keep the shower regime going, kind of relatively fresh west to southwesterly airflow. Plenty of thunderstorm activity through the channel during the overnight tonight. We may, like I say, southern counties of England, northern portions of France, we are going to see the potential development of a mesoscale convective complex during the overnight period tonight. As thunderstorms bunch together into one complex that can drive some very impressive rainfall amounts and lightning, gusty winds, large hail, etc., etc. And that can be a long-lived, multi-hour situation of pretty significant weather in terms of thunderstorm activity here. So it'll be interesting to see during the overnight tonight what takes place. Northern France, southern England, further north, we've got that much fresher regime going. And then as we play through, into the final days of the week and into the weekend here, we've got another area of low pressure dominating the pattern. I think this is weekend 9 in a row, believe it or not, that low pressure is in control of the UK atmosphere as well as Ireland for the period here. And it looks as if we are going to see some relatively fresh northerly winds coming down from the north with plenty of showers during the course of this weekend here. Then we've got another frontal system that kind of looks as if it fades away according to the latest run of the GFS by the time we reach the second half of the week and into early next week here. We've got another frontal boundary moving through here. And then it just remains fairly active with a westerly flow. It looks as if we keep the temperatures at bay. So that 28.4 Celsius looks as if it's going to be the hottest temperature of the month of August. Looks as if June is going to hold the prize for the summer's warmest temperature, which was, of course, 32.2 Celsius achieved, I believe, on the 10th of June and the 25th of June. Remember a few weeks ago I actually thought that July had the same temperature as June at 32.2. I think I'm getting mixed up between the two occurrences of 32.2 that occurred in June. I think I'm getting mixed up thinking that was in the month of July as opposed to the month of June. So I think that's maybe where I'm getting that from. I remember a number of weeks ago, Shrine and a couple of other folk pointed out that fact that the warmest temperature for July was actually 30.2, not 32.2, but it was achieved, like I said, twice during the month of June, and that may be possibly, in my defence, the reason why I got confused. 850 temperatures, this is the GFS ensemble here, so we've got that spike in temperature at the moment here. Then it takes a bit of a dive as that area of low pressure then moves to the east. We'll pull in that northerly airflow. It looks as if we maintain for the final days of August generally slightly below average 850s. This is for the greater London area, of course, and it maintains a kind of average to slightly below average regime all the way through week 1 of September, which is quite interesting here. Speaking of September, this is the upcoming 5-day period here. So this is the final days of August, and we've got an area of low pressure in the means in control of the UK atmosphere here. That means that we have got, in terms of precipitation, funnily enough, slightly drier than average conditions across the UK. That is interesting to see, actually. Didn't expect that. Thought it might have been actually slightly above average precipitation. Certainly for the period, it looks as if we've got slightly below average temperatures. Let's have a look and see what the 5-day means is. So this is the upcoming 5-day period here off the model, firmly below average to the end of the month of August and meteorological summer, and begin September here. So this is the 6 to 10, and you can see here that we're average to slightly below average temperature wise, and the 11 to 15 it goes slightly above average, which is quite interesting also here. So this was a tweet here put out at the beginning of the summer from Shrine Bruin. This was people's predicted high temperatures, and I'll go back because I can't actually see predicted high temperatures for the month or for the summer generally, June through August, and I believe he's counting the month of September as well. So of course we need to not necessarily assume that the highest temperature of the whole year can't be achieved in September. That has been the case in the past. I believe 2016 was the last time we've seen September being the warmest temperature any time of the year in the UK. But notice here, we had a temperature as high as 45 Celsius, which is pretty crazy stuff, actually, if you ask me. But I suppose after 2022, who knows what happens. And we had a temperature maximum, the lowest being 29.3. Incidentally, my prediction of 33.0 Celsius is not too bad, considering the highest temperature of the meteorological summer is 32.2. So I'm pretty happy, actually, with that overall prediction of 33.0 Celsius from myself. So, by the way, Gavin will be live on Gav's Weather Vids at 6 p.m. for his live stream, so do check that out and give him a subscription if you haven't already done so. Does terrific work with regards to long range stuff as medium and short term. So, interesting tweet here by Shrine. After calculating Irish mean wind speeds based on 6 stations distributed across Ireland for the past July and August and current, most of this century has been relatively calm, but 2023 bucks the trend, and it stands out compared to recent years for quite a windy July and August. Remember, we've had some unusually deep areas of low pressure during July and August. You have to go back to the 1980s for some of the depths of lows that we've seen in 2023 versus what we've seen in the past here. But you notice here this kind of uptick in wind during what the kind of 1980s, early 1990s. Then we've got this drop off, quite a significant drop off, the late 1990s into the early 2000s. And yeah, it's quite an interesting situation here developing here, how we've got this rise in windy conditions, assuming that we've got more in the way of low pressure dominance during the 1980s, hence why we've seen the deepest areas of low pressure at points this summer since the 1980s, and then of course a drop off during the late 90s and into the early 2000s. But this summer definitely bucks the trend because we had record low wind speeds for the summer season in recent times, so that's quite interesting. Most of this century has been relatively calm, but 2023 bucks the trend, especially after 2022 and 2021 was record calm in terms of mean wind speed. So some interesting stuff there by Shrine. Casement Dublin having its windiest July August combination since 1998, which is quite interesting. Remember, I said in yesterday's video, by the way, about the tropics coming alive. We need to watch that. That increases the uncertainty and complexity of the pattern as you start to redistribute heat from the tropics into the temperate regions here. That will have a big impact on our September outlook. We'll have a look more and more at September, as well as autumn, as well as winter in the coming days and weeks to come. So if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate the amount of views each video is having. Still kind of hitting the kind of 1,000 views within a 24-hour period of upload. I do greatly appreciate each and everybody's support, and do, if you haven't already done so and you're interested in meteorology, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Lots of exciting things to come with regards to winter, sudden stratospheric warming, El Nino, warm sea surface temperatures, the polar vortex, the quasi-biennial oscillation, Indian Ocean dipole. There is so many things that we'll be looking at with regards to the upcoming winter season. But anyway, the tropics need to watch as well. Second half of the summer season, when that ramp up in tropical activity, we need to watch for something possibly later down the road. I related, and this was based on a theory from Joe Bastardi. I did relate the late summer pattern uptick in tropical activity during the month of September. That pattern with the Mann-Julian oscillation going into phases 6, 7, 8, and 1, that then correlated to a cold December. So joining all the dots, so to speak, lots of things to look at, a lot of interesting things as well. But it's interesting, Brian McNulty made mention tropical storms Emily and Franklin both formed today. This was, of course, back on the 20th, actually a wee bit out of date. They are the 6th and 7th named storms of the Atlantic hurricane season. That's 3 weeks ahead of the 91 to 2020 climatological date of 7th named storm formation. So we're ahead of the game with regards to the tropics, despite the fact that we've got El Nino. El Nino tends to kind of quieten down the Atlantic season, ramp up the Pacific season, but we've seen the exceptional warm temperatures of sea surfaces around the Atlantic Ocean. That is kind of counterbalancing out with the El Nino situation and adding to the complexity of the pattern as we go forward here. So very interesting stuff indeed. But it looks as if relatively low pressure dominance is going to take us out of August and into September. It looks as if we start off cool and then we start to gradually warm things up. But we'll look at that in more detail as we go forward. Is there anything else to show you before all things are said and done here? The highest temperature of 2023 in the UK, as said, 32.2 set in June. This was equaled later in the 25th. This is the first time that we've had such an early summer maximum temperature since 1980, according to Shrine here. Also, Storm Betty recently. So the Valencia Observatory in County Kerry, Ireland, the highest hourly rainfall rate on record of 36.2 millimeters. Sorry, and it's also a day where we had 74 millimetres of rain, the highest total here since 1986. Lots of things to look at. Stay tuned. See you again tomorrow. Bye for now.